Hi everyone, and welcome back to our podcast Work in Progress. Hi from me, Nikoleta.
And me, Kat.
Today's guest is Tanya Bendiš. She is originally from Croatia, but she was also raised in America, and she's here today to tell us a little bit more about her professional journey, develops her still career in terms of freelancing, full-time job, passion projects, and more.
Thank you so much for having me on the podcast. I'm excited to share my experience today with you.
So can you give us like brief introduction of how you ended up in Croatia and where you have been so far and what did you do in terms of your professional career?
Of course, yeah. So I grew up in California, close to, Silicon Valley, so close to San Francisco Bay Area. I was there until I was 16. And then I went to university very young. I graduated at 16, so I went to university right as I turned 17.
Wow.
Kind of different program in the US compared to in Europe, and you're allowed to kind of skip grades or kind of push ahead. So I really took advantage of that because I wanted to dance. So I pushed through, still wanted to go to university, and just got a jump head start on that. I actually studied dance in university, even though in my free time from university, I was always like freelancing, graphic design, designing logos, working with small businesses. I worked with a small tennis shop to do their branding, their videos, everything. So it kind of was always in my blood since I was in high school to just freelance. And yeah, after I graduated, I danced for a year in Connecticut for an internship. And then I moved to Seattle, where my family lives now. And I stayed there for 4 years, and I danced in a ballet company. I had a bunch of different random jobs too. And I lived in Seattle because it's a very expensive city to live in. So dancing doesn't cover your bills. But yeah, everything from organizing events for like big, cosmetic brands like Dior and La Mer, and like working on the beauty teams for that, to, social media, photography and like other, also just a lot of fun stuff.
The list is long.
And just, and always graphic design, because that's something I learned in high school through like our multimedia design program, and it just kind of stuck with me. So like UX and graphic design in general was always there. After a while in Seattle's very rainy and depressing. I was just like, screw it, I'm moving to Europe, I don't care. And I bought a one-way ticket to Frankfurt. And I stayed with like a couple of friends there. I have like my best friend, she lives in Germany. I stayed with her for a while. I did a lot of like dance auditions. I did a lot of like self-discovery of like what I want to do in my life, where I want to be. And I ended up getting pneumonia, and I ended up in Zagreb with my grandma. And was kind of stuck there or stuck here, right, in Zagreb for like a month, laying on the couch. And, first time I like opened Netflix, because I never had a TV or anything. And I was just like, oh, wow, like I like it here, even though I'm sick and I'm like dying on this couch. Like, I like life here. And I slowly started getting better, and I got to see my friends and like have coffees and dinners and everything. And I just decided in that moment that this is kind of the pace of life that I wanted to be part of. And, I was 24 at the time, so I was ready to kind of slow down from the American, rat race. And I ended up in Zagreb, and, I've stayed there ever since. It's been 6 years here now. So it's been fun. Yeah.
Amazing.
Where should we start, Kat?
So I want to go all the way back to the beginning.
Okay.
So you obviously, as a teenager, you had this kind of freelancer hustle spirit in you, like you were doing a lot of stuff. How was the conversation then when you said to your parents that you wanted to do dancing and you wanted to go to college really early, rather than maybe taking a more traditional pathway? Because is your family Croatian also?
Yeah, my family's Croatian. Okay.
Yeah.
I would say that it's hard, right? Arts is a very difficult industry, and I think they had it in the back of their head that it was going to be very, very hard. Even though they were trying to be very like cool, modern parents and be supportive as much as they could.
Oh, that's nice.
There was always like a backup, like you should have a backup plan kind of vibe in the house. But yeah, my mom like did drive me a lot to ballet classes because I was like dancing Monday through Sunday, you know, like 6 to 8 hours a day. So there was a lot of like sacrifice for my family to make that happen.
Yeah.
But yeah, when I went to university, they were like, okay, better that you go to university than just in dance. It's very common just to go directly from high school into like a trainee program or like an internship and then start dancing with the company immediately. So they were very, very happy that I went to university, even if I was studying dance, just to get a degree, because I think that opens like a lot of doors. And both of them are very technical people. My dad graduated from the FER, this electrical engineering, and my mom from PEMEC, which is the mathematics and chemistry.
Okay.
Very, very
Very
scientific
different.
engineer type people. So, yeah, I think it was a struggle, but it kind of all worked out. So it was nice.
Yeah, it sounds like it. And how
Yeah.
was it just going to college much younger than everyone else? Because in California, are people 18 or 19? How old? Like how
Yeah,
much is the
usually
age difference?
people, exactly. Yeah, I would say that people were 19. Yeah, my classmates were about 2 years older than me, maybe two and a half.
Okay.
I would not recommend that, especially in the United States. Maybe that's my biggest regret is kind of rushing through things. It worked out for me, so it was okay. But I definitely, it took like 2 or 3 years for me to find like some friends who were my age even. Since
Yeah.
I was, younger. Also in America, like the drinking age is 21, and I had already graduated university before I even turned 21.
Yeah.
So while everyone was out partying, I was at home alone with no one to hang out with in my class.
Oh,
So
that's a shame.
yeah, I think like the social aspect of university, I really missed out on, even though like the educational part, I feel like I was able to like, get 100% because, well, you're so
Yeah.
bored that you just take more classes and you study harder.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they
So,
say a lot of the part of going to university is the social aspect, like the first time you're living on your own, making friends that aren't in high school. It's just a very different life. So it's obviously you had a very different experience too, I guess
exactly.
traditionally when you go to college. Yeah, which for
Yeah,
me was just
exactly.
about partying. So I had the opposite of you.
Yeah, exactly. And I do like definitely miss that. So I don't know, maybe I'll study again in my life, but now I'm too old, so
Never too old to study
never
more.
too old.
Yeah, but I was thinking about the whole list of opportunity that you had through these years, and I wonder how one comes across so many opportunities. Did you say yes to everything? How your resume became so long? Like how this happened? Is it the
Yeah.
location that you were growing like in, or is it just you pursuing like everything that comes your way? Like how do you get to do so many things?
Yeah, I had a big problem saying yes to everything and a big problem like letting go of things. So for me, if I like agreed to do something, it's very hard for me to say, I'm so sorry, like I actually don't have time to do that. And I would
Mm-hmm.
push through a lot. And even today, I think I still have this problem, but I'm getting a little bit better at it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, California has a lot of opportunity, and we have so many electives in our middle school, so sixth, seventh, and eighth grade, and high school. So when I compare it to like Croatian curriculum where you really have to, stay, do all 14 lectures, we really got to
Mm-hmm.
choose what we wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just, we had a lot of clubs. We had a writing club on the side, there was a drama club, photography club in our high school. So you really could pursue any passion project that you wanted to. And I had a lot of interest at that time. And even though ballet was like my core, I definitely like jumped in on this like computers 1, 2, 3 in our middle school, and then multimedia design in our high school. That was everything from design to like HTML, CSS, JavaScript. So I kind
Wow.
of like stuck in that sector, as
Mm-hmm.
well as I joined the writing club, which I'm sad that I don't use as much today. But in general, like I just had a lot of kind of hobbies in the back of my head when I was a kid. So kind of
Nice.
we'll see what happens. And the life is long. So
But
Yeah.
but yeah, when you compensate with the social life, I presume you get into your own internal world and you get to explore so many things. I think for me it happened the opposite. I was like very social growing up, didn't do that much studying at the time. But when I finished high school, I was like, okay, now it's maybe time to focus more on self-introspection, what I like to really do, what I like to learn about. So it's kind of like the flipped opposite. And it's
Yeah,
quite
exactly.
interesting.
Yeah, I have a hard
Yeah.
time explaining to people like, how do you have time to learn all these things? Well, you fill up your time. In university also, I was living about 6 hours away from my parents, so it wasn't really possible to go home for the weekends. But the university I went to, a lot of people were commuting to school, so they were close to their families.
Yeah.
And yeah, you have, whole day Saturday and whole day Sunday. I always like to wake up early, so I
No
felt like,
TV.
yeah, didn't have a TV then.
Yeah.
My
I
tiny little apartment that was probably like 15 square meters, and you learn how to cook, you read a lot, you start writing, you just try things out. And I think there's
yeah.
benefits and things. I definitely miss the social aspect, but I don't know, I kind of compensated it for later in life because I feel like now I'm always having a coffee with someone.
Catching up, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm,
That's
I'm just
great.
finishing now a book about the goddesses in every woman, and it's fascinating that I can recognize each of the seven goddesses in myself, in my friends, in other women. And
So beautiful.
maybe sometimes when you describe yourself to other people, you also refer to not a goddess, but another part of you, like another personality. Like Tanya at work is probably Athena, like very strategic, very focused, very serious. But Tanya, who is dancing, is more like sensual, like Aphrodite is, and she's like moving through the sound of music and whatnot. So I would just wonder, maybe when you were growing up, that you focus more on those goddesses that were like focus more on like the personal development and your like interests. And in terms of that, I wanted to ask, which goddess do you think maybe it's manifesting in you right now?
Ah, I
Yeah.
don't know so much. I have not researched so much about these goddesses, so I don't know like the list of them. I should go
Mm-hmm.
look at the Greek goddesses. But I would definitely say I'm kind of focusing on the Tanya that's just kind of enjoying life for the simplicity and enjoying the moments. So
Mm-hmm.
not
Yeah.
being overstressed about, okay, I need to study, I need to be strict, and this needs to be done this way. But just it is what it is. It's gonna work out somehow, and put as much energy into something as you want in return, and whatever is the outcome, it's gonna be okay.
Mm.
Nice.
I
Yeah.
don't know if
No, I
that
love the
falls in
idea
line with
that
your goddesses.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's right because we have, we're still the same person throughout our entire lives, even if you change really a lot. Like I think
Mm-hmm.
of myself in my early 20s and I was completely different to now. Because now I'm studying, like working very hard, whereas in my 20s I was just partying and traveling and enjoying a lot. But now I'm noticing also when I think about how I interact with people, probably a lot of the skills that I have now, I've learned during that time when I was really social, really outgoing, meeting a lot of people. So in a way, my partying years have helped my business years. That's how I like to
Yeah.
think about it.
Yeah.
The goddesses are somewhere there.
I mean, they can change, they can shift depending on your circumstances. It's more important in the book. I realized that when I'm finishing it now, that you're like, I don't know how to translate it in English, but the ego, that is the one that is the balanced ego, it takes control and says to the table of many goddesses, okay, which one will manifest today and in this situation, and how can we work together to make this person pursue their interests and not be like putting their priorities and internal interests down because they have to like complete that image and expectations from the outside society. So it
True.
really
Mm.
depends.
Yeah,
Yeah.
interesting. Yeah. So I'd love to know, Tanya, what is kind of your main focus now? Because you mentioned just before we started that you're also starting a podcast, and I imagine you're dancing. Do you have any other side projects going on? And then how do
Yes.
you manage your schedule with all of this and all such different things as well? Like dancing and a podcast are they're not related subjects necessarily, just creative, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, okay, let's start. First is my main job. So I'm working at a startup that's doing AI, kind of a search of all media materials. So video search, finding content in anyone's media. So not really like Google, but inside of a company, kind of privatized, that you can find all the assets that you have. So that's my main job, in partnership with two colleagues who I also work with elsewhere. We're decided that we're going to start kind of building awareness about AI, because in Croatia, I feel like this, yeah, I don't know if you remember seeing on the streets, when 5G came and people were
Yeah.
being like, kill 5G, and I feel like there's this kind of same awareness with AI until this energy, this bad energy passes. So yeah, we definitely want to start a podcast about this and kind of bring like technical people on our podcast. But also we just want to go on the street and see like what the community, what are people talking about? Like what are citizens feeling about this, different age groups and stuff like that. So that's kind of in the research part of my job.
Yeah.
I'm interested in seeing this. Yeah, that's one of my kind of lifelines, I would say. My 9 to 5, but it's not very much a 9 to 5. And yeah, other than that, I dance. I dance at the theater here in Zagreb that is doing musical theater. So yeah, that's every day. We have shows in the evenings, and that's just like part of who I am. So I don't want to let go of that at no cost. So I do that. And then yeah.
But have you ever experienced burnout before, and how do you handle like when they say you must have like a high tolerance for pressure, and I think you are fitting this criteria because you're like doing so much in the same 24 hours like everybody else, and I just wonder how do you do it? Like how do you
Yeah,
make
I don't know if I'm like in a constant state of burnout or not. That probably. I have experienced burnout a lot during COVID. Maybe because just no social interaction as much. We were like very close, very careful. And then in my previous job that I was doing, I got really, really burnt out. So for me, it's very important. I am doing too much and I know that, but it's very important that I'm passionate and interested about what I'm doing. And if there's any like tasks that can be automated with any tools, AI, or if there's a point like, okay, it's better for me to hire someone to do this than me to like suffer through that. I do at this point in my life, I decided like it's better for me to like, use that creative like juice that I have and not, sit at home and like cry from exhaustion.
Yeah.
But I also feel like one thing fuels the other. So, my dancing, it's very active, it's very physical. And then it's possible for me to sit, for 6 to 8 hours in an office or go to conferences and be social, because dancing is like a mute thing. You're quiet and you're physical and you're, focused on yourself. And then at my job, I can focus on other people. So I think that's nice.
Nice
Balance.
balance.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Were you able to dance during COVID as well? Or was that,
Yeah,
so I guess that added to your burnout as well.
oh, for sure. Yeah. I was
Yeah.
teaching, I was lucky enough. I was teaching online classes first because of the earthquake. So I was teaching once a week, online classes for free, in my living room. And just to like help donate to this musical institute that we have in Zagreb here that got really destroyed from the earthquake. And then one girl like who has Down syndrome, she actually contacted me, and I started teaching her twice a week also over video, which was such a challenge, but she was so like in love with it that I just had to keep going.
Yeah. I'm sure it was a challenge, but I think you probably brought a lot of value to those people's life at that time, because we were all stuck with nothing, like all experiencing burnout. So I'm sure it really helped.
Sure. Yeah. I think it was definitely like a two-way thing. Sometimes, sometimes you just don't feel like doing it, but you have to show up for someone else. And I think that's really important when you feel like you need to be there for someone. Yeah.
Yeah. So on that note, I wanted to
Yeah.
come back to, you said earlier about this problem saying no to people, like if someone was asking you to do something and you would just say yes to everything. And then you've just said there also, like you feel like you have to show up for someone like to help. Do you think those two are intertwined? And how do you think you've overcome this problem of not saying no?
Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, so that's probably that problem is intertwined for sure. I just feel in my mind, at least, I feel it's very important in my life to like give back as much as I can. And
Yeah.
I wouldn't say necessarily like, oh, okay, I need to like donate, like 90% of my salary to something. But there's always somebody you can mentor. There's always like a helping hand you can give. There's always, I don't know, maybe you can help like an elderly person carry their groceries or something, just like in general, like building this community around us in the space that you are, being aware of the people around you. And if you have the means, and it doesn't necessarily mean financial, giving people opportunity and giving people the potential to grow. So I think this is something that for me is like really important. And that kind of got in the way of like saying yes to every opportunity and doing every single thing. And well, that leads to burnout, and you don't want to do that too much. But now, now I really reserve it for times that, I'll say yes to things if I'm passionate about the people who are working on it, if I'm passionate about the mission that they have. Like, for example, I work on a film festival, and the major reason why I help and work, and, it's all volunteering, but the main reason I do it is because the people who are working on the team are so passionate and dedicated. And I just think like that kind of people, those kind of workers should be rewarded, with some help if I can help them. Yeah. And I think you can always identify who needs help in your community, and not someone that just needs help because they're too lazy to do something, but somebody who's motivated and just maybe needs that leg up. Because I feel like young students these days, if they don't have connections, if they're not maybe at the right university, they might be, the best person for the job, the most intelligent. They just can't open the door because it's not available to them. So I don't know, kind of, let's say, position in power, like if I have the opportunity to help someone, I would like to see that being done.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
I love that it comes from a really positive, good place, instead of, because I think some people might have the opposite, that if your problem with saying no comes from like a selfish place or something like this, I think this causes people to burn out or feeling unsatisfied in what they're chasing after. I mean, I know for me at one point, I think last year or so, I was very focused on money. And then when I started going after that, it just didn't feel good. So then I'm like, okay, I need to change my mindset, focus on what I really love doing is helping people also. So when I focus on that instead, then it just feels much better. And then I feel positive about the work that I'm doing and everything. It changed, like the way you think about things changes everything, I think.
Exactly. And then maybe like, from that good energy, like maybe the money will come along with it. Maybe it won't, but you'll feel fulfilled, either way.
Which is the most important thing.
I would agree.
Passion meets passion, and energy meets energy. I also believe in that. And the way you talk, the way you just act in your life, it really attracts the right things and the right people. But now I'm going to move back to the dancing, and I want to ask, because I saw your presentation in one design event about animations. You were still in, I think, the company back then as an animation designer, right?
Yeah, I was working in Amagi. I was like head of product design, but my one important part of my role was to do the motion animations for all of our apps. So I was very like working in After Effects and Lottie files all the time. We didn't have a motion animator on staff, so that was me plus, working with the team.
I was just wondering, did ever the dancing and movement intertwined with After Effects? Like, have you ever got inspired during your rehearsals or plays? Like, oh my God, I can implement that thing in my job. Like, did they ever cross paths?
Oh, I definitely. So the reason why I started working in motion design, so that's kind of how I ended up getting into graphic design, was through video and like stop animation and frame by frame like innovations. That's how I started. That's the only logical side of graphic design for me, and that comes most naturally to me. So yeah, dance and choreography and seeing objects in space, so in 1920 by 1080, or in the space around me. That's how my mind thinks. And when I think of things, I don't think of words. I see pictures. So it's very much easier for me to, let's say, choreograph my motion animation rather than struggling in that task and trying to code something. So yeah, that's definitely what inspired me to even be a graphic designer, be a UX designer, and solve that kind of motion animation aspect of UX design. Yeah.
Oh, wow. That's really interesting.
It is.
What was it that brought you to dance in the first place also?
Oh, I was walking down the street in this little town, Los Altos it's called, and there was like a little dance studio there, and we're going to the farmer's market, and I just like pulled my mom to the window and I was like, oh, sign me up. I was like 3 years old. I was like, I have to do this. And I
Oh,
was like
wow.
dancing down the hallways, like very active child, like running around, twirling.
Yeah.
I wouldn't stop moving. And since then, like, I don't know, when I was 11, I danced with San Francisco Ballet in the summer and passed auditions and everything. It's like a very rigorous like audition even to get in. So I was like, okay, after that summer, I was like, oh, I'm doing this. This is my career. Like, nothing else exists to me. And I really like that was it. Like I had a few other like little dreams on the back burner, like, oh, like maybe I'll do that. But dance for me was age 11 was like, oh, like I live for this, I breathe for this.
Yeah. Oh,
It's
that's so
changed
amazing.
now. But yeah.
Yeah. Oh, cool. No, so a couple of weeks ago, this year I wanted to focus a bit more on like movement. So I joined a dance class a couple of weeks ago. It's like a contemporary dance class. And so I've never really done any dance before. And then when I got there, I didn't realize, but the first half of the class was improvisation. So I was expecting that she would teach us some moves and then maybe we'd do something after. But then we started off the class and the teacher was just like feel the energy of the space around you, and then like she was saying, let your arms like lead your body. And I'm like, what is she talking about? Like, feel the space, let your arms lead. Like, I have no idea. And I just found it so interesting that it was just a completely different part of like my brain. Like, I didn't know what she was talking about. But then as you kept moving, then I started feeling it more. And I was like, oh, okay, this is how like moving with different parts of your body. So I imagine like being a dancer also, it's just such a different creative part of your mind. Do you feel like that as well?
Yeah, I would definitely say that too. I love improvisation more than, I don't know, for example, ballet, because let's say ballet, it's like learning math equations. You learn a step, you learn the combination, you learn how to do it. You're constantly, perfecting your skill. But it's a very like rigid frame of like, what it is. And then when you're doing contemporary dance or just improvisation specifically, it's a lot of the creative process that you don't, have in other styles of dance. So this is cool because I think that's like a totally different headspace. You're thinking, you're maybe not even thinking, you're just moving in the moment. Or if you have a thought, it's very in the moment. There's no preparation for the step. So that's like a great place for me, for example, to have creativity and to create creativity. So I like to improv a lot. I have like a whole little Instagram dedicated to my little like squiggles around my living room that I just like to improvise.
Oh,
So,
amazing. What's the handle?
no.
Maybe I'll oh no, okay.
Don't tell anyone.
Okay, no worries.
Yeah. One day when I'm old, I'm like, I enjoy this. I post them on my real account sometimes.
Okay. Stories.
Yeah, it's definitely like what I would say for me, a very big creative process just to let go and think, in the moment. And I think that's really valid for motion animation as well and design. So for me, it's like all these aspects of my life are connected. I don't know. When people ask me what I do, it seems like it's all over the place, and I'm doing a lot, and I agree. But for me, somehow, like everything connects. Even the business aspect of my job. You have to do PR, you have to do business just to survive. As a freelancer, or even in a company, you should be like marketing yourself in some way. So that's applicable in
It's all,
every industry. Yeah, for me, it's all
yeah,
connected.
I think what you do right now for OmniSearch is what you have been doing your whole life, like different types of media, searching for the different types of media, using, creating, and like just working with whatever you comes your way. And I
Yeah,
think it's a really how everything makes sense. Like you said, everything connects in the end, and that's the most
yeah.
important part of the things. But
yeah.
have you ever had like maybe a passion project that you regret taking on, and maybe something that you have learned along the way when you're taking so much work in terms of like I want to help and I want to do this, but I am interested in that. Like, do you have any
Yeah.
learning lessons from this?
I had, yes, I have. I did it. I mean, maybe not so much of a regret, but just like a lot of invested time for not a lot of results.
Mm-hmm.
A friend of mine and I tried to start building an app together, but since she's not an engineer in any way, more of like you know, front marketing, like PR kind of person, and
Mm-hmm.
I really only do front end design and you know, not a lot of stuff in databases and stuff like this. So for us, it was a big struggle to get our app, you know, like our web app going without some sort of like huge investment into,
Yeah.
you know, either programmers or an app that would solve our problem so that we could white label. But we spent like a good year, like every day talking and
Um,
working. And I would not say I regret it because I think I learned a lot, like everything from talking to investors to doing the full-blown design for like a mobile and web app, doing full-blown like commercials that never got released, and just like building and then seeing if we can build the site through Webflow or through WordPress and like other like options just to get started so that we could eventually get investors in order to hire a programmer, because both of us were like, okay, it doesn't make sense to invest like private money into
yeah.
that. But yeah, it was, I would say it's a lot. It was a lot of time for like a project that flopped, but I don't think a flopped project is necessarily like a
It's failed.
regret. I just think, yeah,
Yeah,
you learn a lot from things that fail,
yeah,
and you learn things that you did wrong, or that you maybe circumstances that like, okay, this business plan didn't work, and the next time I
yeah.
work with something, it might suckeed. Yeah.
Yeah, in the
At
end,
what
and then
point
that's
did
like a big research piece.
exactly,
Exactly.
yeah.
A long research piece.
Yeah.
But luckily it's during COVID, so it was like semi-lost time.
Mm-hmm.
But it's okay.
Oh yeah, that's perfect then. No, I was going to ask because then you've obviously put in so much time in it into the project. At what point did you both say like, no, we need to not, because you get attached to it when you've put so much time, right? So it's really hard to then be like, no, we can't anymore. So at what
Yeah, of
point did you
course.
realize?
Yeah, we were just at a point where even through all our efforts doing the development and everything, it was just not possible to create like the vision of,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
Mm,
like we wanted to like kind of make like a scheduling aspect to it and like reservation blocks and stuff like this into the app, which just was not possible
yeah,
without like some serious development. And at that time, we were like, okay, we don't have the money to invest in this, and there's no clients or investors coming through.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just kind of like, okay, I have a full-time job on the side and like things that are, you know, other freelance projects that were at that moment bringing in money. And,
Mm-hmm.
you know, you don't want to be wasting, you know, like 4 to 6 hours a day on something that's in no way profitable, and then sometimes just
of
losing money
course.
for it. Yeah.
So based on everything, like your whole career journey, what would you say are some key takeaways that you've learned about, you know, staying resilient, you know, choosing the right projects, being creative, and not getting overwhelmed with all of your passion projects?
Yeah, of course. So yeah, at this point in time, I would say I try to find projects that I 100% align with, which when I was in my younger 20s, you know, just as you said, like sometimes you have a financial need that you need to cover, and I wouldn't really
Mm,
stay true to myself. Maybe I would be like, okay, 50% of me feels okay doing this. And just at one point when I was like 26, I just came in a point in my job where I like just felt like something was morally wrong and I didn't want to do
okay.
it. And I had a huge fight because of this, because it was just like, I don't agree with this and I don't want to do this. And shortly after I quit that job. And now for me, it's like extremely important that everything I do for me that is morally correct for who I am. I mean, that everyone has their own moral like lineup, but for me, that I really feel 100% in this project and I feel comfortable with it. Because then it's much easier to be passionate in your job. If you're passionate in your job, you're gonna work a lot harder than someone who's just coming there for their salary. So this is my like, pinpoint goal, what I'm looking for in every project I do, whether that's freelance, whether that's, you know, doing something for a friend, whether that's my, you know, full-time job, is like, okay, I'm doing this because I feel good doing this and I feel like I'm making a difference doing this.
And
don't just do it for the money.
yeah. In another takeaway, like in the sense of freedom, in creative freedom, how much would you say that is important for you when you take on a project or a job?
Okay, so creative freedom. I think freedom for me, like American, which is not a very free country in reality. But for me, freedom is like the number one thing in my job. I will take a huge pay cut if I have freedom of vacation days, freedom of which hours I work. Of course, you're gonna have meetings. Of course, you're gonna have tasks that you don't love. But being able to have flexibility in my schedule, being able to say, hey, I need to be, you know, at this event at noon. Can I work? Or I didn't have to tell anyone, but like, can I work from 3 until midnight or something, you know? And having this kind of flexibility, of course, like delivering everything that needs to be delivered and more so that you create trust with your employer. But yeah, and creative freedom to me too. I feel like in this position where I am now at OmniSearch, I am not having like the threat of someone else's decision, like, you know, eating at me, like, oh, is someone gonna like what I'm doing? Am I doing a, you know, good job? This kind of worry doesn't exist. And yeah, which allows you to be more creative, because someone who's stressed out all the time or anxious that someone's gonna, you know, be mad at them, fire them, I don't know, give them, you know, not pay their full salary, I don't know, yell at you, like all of the above, right? That can't be a creative person. Yeah, that's not possible. So I also really let my marketing team, like, and design team have this freedom. Like, I'm not gonna eat their head off if they give me a bad proposal. It's okay. You gotta like let people be themselves and create on their own. Yeah.
Exactly. That seems like it aligns with your values as well. Like
yes.
giving people the freedom, having a nice place to work, all of that sort of thing.
Yeah, exactly. Of course, I expect a lot from them, but
yeah,
they get enjoy the freedom too.
Yeah, but I also agree that when you have more freedom and you're more, I guess, feeling stable and appreciated, then you can be more creative. I think when you have like these horrible bosses that are screaming at you, having like the hard deadlines, that's not a good place to thrive creatively.
Of course, yeah. Well, and I think this younger generation also, I mean, I probably watch like TikTok videos and Instagram videos of like millennial bosses, Gen Z bosses, and it's a lot of like new practices are coming into the workplace. I'm like the oldest person in my office is like 35. So we're very like millennial Gen Z, and there's not a lot of you know, kind of like upper management stress of people who are like going into their pension but haven't yet retired, who, you know, live their certain way. Like no disrespect to that, of course, like those people have worked for years, but the management practices of younger people are very different, like researched very different. So we kind of enjoy that in our office because we're all quite in the younger age ranges.
Yeah, amazing. Good. And then do you have anything coming up that you want to share with our audience? Maybe where to follow you, or any the podcast, or
any projects,
anything to promote?
Well, I don't know. For business stuff, you can follow me on LinkedIn. That's like my favorite social media platform. I always post random stuff up there, so that's fun. And all any announcements, that's a great place to follow me. If you want to like stay in touch with dancing and just life in general, you can follow me on Instagram. It's just Tanya Bendis, my name on both platforms. And yeah, I don't know, I'll announce on LinkedIn this podcast that's coming up, and hopefully maybe I'll see you guys in real life for the interviews. So that'll be really fun.
I will definitely pop up if it's in the area, and also maybe once again if you do some performance, play, that I can see you again, because you were so good in Beauty and the Beast. This was my first visit to Helsinki because of you. I was like, I will go see her. And it was so magical. Everything was so well done. I was like, the set design, I was like obsessed, and I was like, wow.
I love it.
I imagine how is your life to be like being behind the scenes, in front of the scenes, and being like so involved in so many things. It's just like, wow. Maybe you can do one day a vlog, a day in a life in Tanya Bendiš.
Yeah, maybe. That's true. Yeah, I really haven't decided yet if I enjoy to be behind the scenes or in front of the scenes more, since I do a lot of both. But one day I think I'll figure it out. Maybe the older I get, the more like being behind the scenes. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Tanya, so much for coming on the podcast and sharing your journey and stories with us. And if you like this kind of episode, let us know in the comments below. Also, leave a like, share with a friend. And if you have anything else to suggest or comment, feel free to leave it in the comments below.
Thank you so much, guys. And we'll see you guys next time. Bye.